What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete again. You're going to have to excuse my disheveled look. When I get inspired to record these videos, it's unpredictable. But I wanted to talk about something here that I actually was talking to someone about. And, this kind of bleeds into a variety of areas. There are times when I hear people talking about like taking on no pay beta clients, you know, reduced fees or whatever it might be, and the model work week and working hours that you need to. And again, there's no hard and fast rules on this, but it's something that I talk to other business owners, and it's not just specific to financial coaching, but it's an idea of starting the way you want to end, and being intentional about setting things up today in the way that you can sustain them. So, for example, start how you want to end really means setting things up today, so that they look like the business that you want. And it's one of those things when I talk to people about small businesses in general. The reason I talk about this, it's let's just say you're a plumber, and you're billing $50 an hour, and you want some business, so you're not charging people that emergency show up fee. I don't even know what they call it, but like if you call at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, they come out and it's $150 for them just to show up. Not to mention their regular normal fee, or maybe even an inflated fee just because of kind of outside the work hour time. So there's this emergency charge. Now, if you're going to get into the habit of not charging that, what's going to happen is that people are going to be conditioned to that, and they're not going to know that you're going to charge it. And sometimes they call you at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and you come and you got $140 or $150 emergency surcharge on there, and they're going to freak out on you. Maybe it might not be that bad, but you get my point here that you want to kind of set it up the way you need to set it up. And the reason is your clients in general don't know if they're the first client or your 50th client or your 1 millionth client, right? So if you treat your client when they come in differently and they don't know any better, they are going to expect that they're going to be treated like this. And so it's one of these things where I think we're tempted often to do things at the beginning just to do them, just to get some business, just to kind of get the ball rolling. And I get that. And I get that. And I think there are some things that we can do around the edges. But some of the things that I worry a little bit about is like setting your day and time to a schedule that you're not willing to work in the future, that you're just taking it because, hey, I've got this prospect. He can only meet Saturday mornings. I don't really want to work weekends, but I'm going to do Saturday mornings. You know what's going to happen is he's only going to work Saturday mornings. Now, listen, I came from the financial advising world. We had clients, our offices had clients, our advisors had clients. And, in one case, I remember we had a big client from our area in Chicago, and he ended up moving in retirement to North Carolina. And so he became kind of a remote client. But when he came in to see his family and stuff, he only came in on the weekends. And so the only time he could meet were Saturday mornings. And so, yes, you can kind of go outside of your normal working hours. You have that prerogative. And there might be cases when that makes sense. But I tell you what, none of the advisors wanted to work Saturday morning. And this wasn't a regular thing because he would only come in, a few times a year. So it's just a few Saturday mornings a year. But when you have an important client, one that's worth millions of dollars, who's been with you for years, who's been a big part of your income stream and a business, you can do some of those things. But if you set Saturday hours and people start taking them and you take that away, it's going to be painful. And if you take it away from people who need that, let's say you are working with clients who are very hourly, they work on an assembly line. They don't have long breaks. They don't have flexibility during the workday. So they need hours outside of the normal workday, which means they can only meet early in the morning or later in the evening or on the weekends. And if you take those on and then say, hey, I'm kind of shrinking my hours just to be, normal working hours between 8 and 5 on Monday through Friday, well, you might lose those, right? And that's not necessarily going to be good. Maybe you can move on from those, but it's not going to be a good experience for your clients that are used to that and maybe chose you because of your flexible hours. So, one of the things when I started was, I experimented with Saturday hours. And what I realized is that my target market were the employed professionals, people that worked, 8 to 5, 8 to 6 during the day, but had flexibility during their day. Now I've had clients that have gone out to their car during their lunch hour to take my call, in their car for privacy, or so they didn't interfere with any work or whatever. And I've had some that have been, executives at their company, so they could just close the door of their office and do it really whenever they wanted. But for me, that was the demographic. That was my core target market, were the people that were working on financial independence, that were working on financial freedom, that had surplus income, that had flexibility in the job, that had, authority and, those types of things, and kind of were professionals that were extending on their job track. And so, for me, it worked out great because I could work with them during the workday. Now, some people wanted to do it early in the morning, and so I would start at 7 a.m. on some days to accommodate some people that just were early risers and got an early start on things. But I could work that on my schedule. So I worry about the people that maybe don't have, um, their time parameters down, day or time, and they are flexing them now with the intention of moving them later. And that can be a rough start too. Another thing is money. So I'm thinking of a friend of mine who got into the coaching business, and one of the things that he or she did was, instead of taking on free clients, she really reduced her fee. I'm not sure exactly what her final fee was supposed to be, but she took on people at $50. And I asked her why she was taking people on at $50. I have no problems with that. And to be honest, if you have really good coaching experience, you don't have a lot of financial experience, maybe you can't bring kind of as much financial muscle to bear in your sessions. And so maybe you're going to have a little bit of a lighter session or more of a tilt towards behavior or whatever it might be. And maybe it's not going to command the same amount of money. You just don't have the skill set to be able to kind of play in as many different arenas. So I have no problems with $50 an hour, but the issue was for her is that she had always assumed that she was going to continue to raise those rates. Well, guess what? The clients that sign up with you for $50 an hour are not expecting to have 100% inflation or 200% inflation. They are not expecting to go from $50 an hour to 100 or 150 or $200 an hour, right? That's just not necessarily something that they sign on for. You don't go to McDonald's and buy a $5 burger to go back 2 weeks later to find it's 15 or $20, right? I mean, that's just not expected. And so one of the things that ended up happening for her is that she kind of found her gravity around $50 an hour. And it was really hard to start moving that up. Even things like $55 an hour, well, now it became kind of a bit of a nuisance charge. And one of the things that she was struggling with is people didn't like seeing 55. They thought 50 was fair, but they kind of felt like that extra $5 was a nuisance charge. It really didn't make any difference to her. It wasn't really significantly increasing her income. And, so she found it not only hard to go to her target. Again, I don't know what her rate was, but to get back to her target rate was very difficult. In fact, moving off of the number that she set initially was actually pretty tough too. It's really hard in that sense to just move it even 3% a year to $52. It seems like weird numbers, right? So when you set your prices for your business too, it's one of those things where you probably want to be as close to where you're going to want to be as possible, because it's easier to set that out of the gate. And again, when your clients sign on for the first time, they don't know where they're coming in the queue. They don't know if you've done this often for 15 years or for 15 minutes. And so, when you tell them a number, they think there's some intention behind that. They don't assume it's just pulled out of thin air because you're guessing at what they can pay. And again, and the big one for me, and the biggest one really, because this is where I think you set expectations and you're managing your clients' expectations, is the level of service. So the temptation, I think, of financial coaching and a lot of businesses, it's not just financial coaching, but I see this in a lot of comments by financial coaches, is that they'll say things like, I'm really nervous about this and I've got imposter syndrome and I really want to do a good job. So I'm researching all these things and I'm doing all this prep work and I've kind of looked at their numbers and I've asked for their statements. So I'm kind of trying to put these all into a model before I get there and, have some spreadsheets. If you're not going to do that for all your clients moving forward, then it's going to be really tough to continue to get clients like you have, right? They expect a certain amount of service. And now if you give them, a hog instead of a ham sandwich, if you really blow out their expectations, if you go above and beyond, if you kind of set the standard that this is what I'm going to do in my sessions, what they are going to do is, one, expect that themselves, but two, when they refer out because they're happy with it, they are going to basically set that expectation for other people. So it's not just a situation where if you feel like, hey, I'm charging this person for 1 hour, they're going to get 1 hour of my time, maybe 10 minutes of lead in, 10 minutes of post work, something like that. Excuse me. So you really need to set the expectation correctly on the level of service. How much post work are you going to do? How much research are you going to do? How much modeling are you going to do? In my case, I do almost none of that. Now, sometimes I will tell people that, hey, if you want me to review that spreadsheet, send it on over. I'll take a look at it beforehand, but it counts towards that hour. So instead of, an hour together, if I spend 15 minutes on it beforehand, we're only going to have 45 minutes in the session. Or if you don't really care about that, you want the full hour session, I'll just tack it on as additional time. But, it's not my job, especially in the coaching world where I'm trying to empower you to understand it. Most of the time I'm looking at that to say, hey, what are you seeing as well? And let's kind of work through this and give you some ideas, because it's not my job to take all your data and manage it. In fact, I'll talk about this in another video. I don't know that even though I keep notes, I don't even know that I need to in many cases, although I think it helps keep the relationship, accurate as well as friendly. So, it's just one of those things. And that's my example in financial coaching, but it goes really towards any business, right? If you're going to have a cleaning business and you go to people's houses and clean, and then you're going to leave a little personalized thank you card with little mints on it, then you better be ready to do that every time you clean someone's house, because as soon as you stop doing that, they're going to start thinking they're getting cheated. They're going to think you're start cutting corners, those types of things. So whatever level of service that you are going to deliver early, you should be prepared to do that all along the way. And I've seen people provide levels of service that they just cannot sustain, whether it's writing them thank you notes after every session or on the holidays and stuff like this. And those are all great customer service tactics. But if you can't scale it up, if when you get to 50 clients or 100 clients and you're not going to continue to do these things, if you're not going to continue to call them once a month as just a friendly reminder with your updates or whatever it might be, then don't do that out of the gate, because it's going to be hard for you, not hard for them, right? And so what I want you to do and think about is, how can you start as close to where you want to be as possible? How can you come out of the gate with the business and the model and the processes that closely mimic where you want to be in the future? Because that's the key. Because I think it's more important to bring in the clients that you want with the experience that you want in a sustainable way out of the gate than to not take a client at all. I would rather pass on a client and not make money or lose money on a business, rather than bring in clients that are going to potentially cost me time and money in the future, but I'm just chalking that up to building the business now. Because what I don't want to do is have a bunch of loss leaders. We're just not the big business. We're not the big mattress store that can advertise a cheap mattress and then you come in and usually buy the more expensive one, right? That's not what we do. We're a person-to-person individualized business here, and I want to make sure that when people come in with me, they don't feel like they're getting the bait and switch. They're going to come in, they get what they expect, and they know what to expect the next time. So hopefully that helps. Start how you'll end. I'll see you later.